Hello, friend. Thanks for joining me. You know, if you've watched my channel for very long, you've probably seen that I'm a pretty deliberate reader. I'm pretty structured in my reading. I've loosened up a little bit over the last few years, but I'm still pretty structured. And, you know, at the end of every year, starting in about October, November, I start putting together, kind of a reading plan for the year to come. So I've been working on 2024's list, and to me this is a lot of fun. This is actually part of the fun of reading. To me, is actually deciding what to read. There's so much to choose from, to spend our time on. A limited amount of time to read, so I want to make sure that what I am reading is actually what I really want to, and only spend the time on that. And so yeah, I've been working on my 2024 reading list, and I have a list. I've come up with more or less a list of books that I would like to read, some that I might get to, others that I really want to prioritize getting to, but I thought it would be kind of fun to run through those. So let's just do it, right? So the first thing I want to talk about is new releases. So one thing about this list is I don't have a lot of new releases on this list yet. So what I do is when I hear about, sometimes I'll see articles as the year goes on, like books to be expected in the upcoming months, and I'll take a look at those, and if any of those catch my eye, I will put them on my on a list in order to keep them kind of on my reading radar. And then every once in a while I'll see one that really catches my attention that I want to go ahead and get to in that reading year. And so far, from what I've seen of upcoming releases in 2024, there is one that has really caught my attention, and that is James by Percival Everett. I've never read anything by this author, although I've heard of this author and actually have meant to get to some of their works, but I haven't yet. But James is supposed to be, from what I understand, a telling of Huckleberry Finn from the standpoint of Jim. And I just love these retellings. I think they can be so much fun, and I've actually read several books on my channel here and chatted them about retellings of like Circe, about the retelling of the Odyssey, the Penelopiad, the Song of Achilles was kind of a retelling of the Iliad. So yeah, I like these kind of retellings. So James by Percival Everett, I plan to get to in 2024. But just some others. What I'd like to kind of do is continue reading on some of my favorite authors. Over the last few years, I've been reading on Hermann Hesse. So this one will be the 9th, I believe, Hesse novel that I've read. The Journey to the East I've been meaning to get to for a while now. I'm almost finished with the Hesse novels. I think I might only have one or two to go after this one, but Journey to the East will be coming up. Then I've got Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis coming up. I read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe this year, as well as The Abolition of Man by C.S. Lewis. So next year, 2024, I would like to get to this one, Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. Then I'd like to get to some more Charles Dickens. So Oliver Twist. I've got Oliver Twist as my Dickens novel for 2024. I will try to at least read one of the Dickens novels in 2024, and it will be Oliver Twist. Then I'm planning on revisiting Teddy Wayne. Teddy Wayne's a contemporary author. I've read a couple of his books, and he had this one that I think this is one of his earlier novels called Loner. And I really like the way this author thinks and writes, and so I'm going to read A Loner in 2024. The Great Man Theory was one that I read and chatted in 2023, so check that out if you're interested. Apartment is another one of his novels. I read that one a couple of years ago and chatted it on my channel, so I just love that author. Then I'm going to try to get to some Thomas Mann. I've been meaning to get to Buddenbrooks. I've read previously and chatted here on the channel Joseph and His Brothers, as well as Death in Venice and Other Stories, and The Magic Mountain. So I've been meaning to get to Buddenbrooks, so 2024 is going to be my year for Buddenbrooks. And then for Jane Austen, I've also been rereading her novels and chatting those here on my channel. So I'm at least going to get to Emma and perhaps even Persuasion if there's time. So we will see about that, but definitely at least one of those novels coming up in 2024. And then some hard-boiled detective fiction. I've been loving reading that. I've read quite a bit of it and chatted here on my channel. But I have a couple of Raymond Chandler works on my list. One is The Long Goodbye by Raymond Chandler. Looking forward to this a lot. I love the movie adaptation of this one from the 70s. Really, really like that. But The Long Goodbye is coming up. And then I've also got Trouble Is My Business by Raymond Chandler. I just love this hard-boiled detective fiction from the mid 20th century. I just think it's so fun. All right, then I've got a book by Ann Leckie called Translation State. So this is a novel she released this year in 2023, and I have read her series called the Radic series. I read that several years ago and chatted it here on my channel as well. But this is set in that same universe where there is a translator. From what I understand of this novel, there's a translator between the human world and the Presger, which is an alien civilization. So I think this will be good. I'm looking forward to getting to this in 2024. Then I have some Philip K. Dick coming up. I have Valis by Philip K. Dick. You know, I've read only one other novel by Philip K. Dick, The Man in the High Castle. Loved it. So I have this one coming up for 2024. Then I'm going to revisit some Haruki Murakami, another author that I've been reading my way through their works, and there are quite a number of them. I believe that Sputnik Sweetheart will be my 10th Haruki Murakami novel to read and chat here on my channel, but I've picked that one to be my 2024 read. If there's time, I'll get to another one, but for sure I'm going to get to Sputnik Sweetheart. Then I'm going to read some W. Somerset Maugham. I haven't chosen it yet. It will either be the novel, but I'm actually leaning towards reading the short stories. So we'll see which one I end up choosing, but there will definitely be some Maugham coming up in 2024. And then for Tolkien, I'm going to reread The Hobbit. What I would like to do is actually listen to an audiobook version of The Hobbit, because I have read The Hobbit several times, but I've never listened to it, and I think that'll be a lot of fun. Then I'm going to visit some new, at least new to me authors, not necessarily new authors, but they are new to me. The first one I've got on my list is Marilynne Robinson's Gilead. I've actually had this on my reading list for several years, but I have decided that 2024, this is going to be a must-read. So I will be getting to Gilead in 2024 by Marilynne Robinson. And then another new author to me is Thomas Merton. Been meaning to read some of Thomas Merton's works for a while. I really like this philosophical sort of contemplative spiritual book, and this one, New Seeds of Contemplation, looks like it's going to be a winner. So I am looking to diving into this in 2024. Then also Colm Toíbín, I may be mispronouncing this. I'm kind of bad with Irish pronunciations, but Colm Toíbín, I think. House of Names. I have been actually meaning to read some of this author for a while now, and I happened to come across this particular book in a used book sale this year. So House of Names is a retelling of the Agamemnon Clytemnestra story from ancient Greece. So another one of those retellings that I really like. So I've got this one coming up in 2024. All right, and then I'm planning on reading The Other Name, Septology, 1 and 2 by John Fosse. I believe this author won the Nobel Prize for Literature this year, 2023, maybe? Well, I had tried to get to it in 2023 and just didn't. So I am definitely going to get to this in 2024. And then Flannery O'Connor is another art author I have never read and always meant to read. So The Violent Bear It Away is the one I've chosen. And so that will be my first dip into Flannery O'Connor coming up soon. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to read in a few different series that I've been reading. First of all, Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series. My coworker and I, Aneth, have been reading the Wheel of Time series together over the last 2 years. So we're not going real quick with it, but we are just finished book 10. So we only have 4 books left in the series to go. So we are going to try to get to all 4 of those books in 2024. And then Ian M. Banks' The Culture series. I want to read 2 of the Culture Series books this year. I read 2 in 2023, and I love this sort of science fiction series of the culture. So it's a lot of fun for me. And then Isaac Asimov, I'm going to read The Prelude and Forward to Foundation. I'm going to finish this series out. I finished the series itself. I just haven't read the prequels, and there are 2 of them, so I want to get those done in 2024 and be basically finished with, I believe I'm finished then with the Foundation series by Asimov. So then for some historical fiction, I do have some chosen here. I've got Quo Vadis by Heinrich Sienkiewicz. This is another book that I picked up at a used book sale, and I have, of course, heard of this book. It's very famous. I just had never really thought about reading it, and I saw it at the book sale earlier in 2023 and just picked up this copy, and I've decided to give this one a go in 2024. So that one will be coming up. I don't know a lot about it other than I think it's set during maybe the time of Nero and features like think Christian, like the early Christian persecutions and things. So we'll see. The Books of Jacob by Olga Tokarczuk. Maybe mispronouncing her name. She's another one that I've been meaning to read for a while. Actually had hoped to get to the Books of Jacob in 2023, but I just ran out of time, so I didn't get to it. So that will be coming up. And then Augustus by John Williams. This one, I believe this picked up a book award back in maybe the 70s. I'm not real sure on that, but it's about, the Emperor Augustus, historical fiction. So I read one other book by John Williams called Stoner. Really, really good. Excellent writer. And then I've got Akhenaten, Dweller in Truth by Naguib Mahfouz, and this one is about the Egyptian pharaoh, historical fiction, featuring the Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten and sort of a radical pharaoh, so that sounds like a lot of fun. Then I've got quite a few works of history. I've got The History of the Peloponnesian War by Thucydides. I've decided to read the original source material. I've read several books about the Peloponnesian War, but this one was the first, written at the time. And then I've got a book about the Peloponnesian War, which is a war like no other, by Victor Davis Hanson. I've actually read this one before. The subtitle up here says, How the Athenians and Spartans Fought the Peloponnesian War. I've read this before, but I wanted to give this a reread and chat about it here on my channel because it's been many, many years since I did read it, so I'm looking forward to getting to this one after I read the actual Peloponnesian War by Thucydides. Then I've got The World of Odysseus by M.I. Finley. So this book takes place, it's actually a work of nonfiction, and it is a sort of a survey of the Greece of the era of the Iliad and Odyssey when those were written. So the society, so I love these kind of social histories. So The World of Odysseus by M.I. Finley. This one's coming up in 2024. And let's see what else I've got. I got House of Medici by Christopher Hibbert. The House of Medici, Its Rise and Fall. I am kind of going through a Renaissance phase at the moment. I'm really interested in that. And so I'm going to give this book about the Medicis a read, The House of Medici. And then sort of along those same lines, I have The Civilization of Europe in the Renaissance, a history by John Hale. So some reading in the Renaissance coming up for me in 2024. And then shifting gears a little bit in history, I'm going to read Magic Time, The Films and Scripts of Billy Wilder by J.R.R. Jordan. This book sounds really good. Billy Wilder is a director from, kind of classic Hollywood era that I find I love his work, so I'm really interested to read a bit about it. All right, then biography. Let me just get my other stack here. So I got some biographies and memoirs, a few coming up. I'm going to read this biography of Tennessee Williams by John Lair. Tennessee Williams is a playwright that I find to be I love his work as well, sort of middle 20th century playwright, and I don't read a lot of biographies, but this one sounds like I'm going to really enjoy it. So looking forward to getting to that. Then I've got a biography of Rudolf Steiner. An Introduction to the Life and Works by Gary Lachman. So I like the way Gary Lachman writes. I've read several of his works: Secret Teachers of the Western World, The Search for Hermes Trismegistus, several other works by Gary Lachman that I've read here on my channel and chatted, so check those out if you're interested. And then I'm going to read a biography of a U.S. president. I haven't decided for sure which one to read, but I'm sort of leaning towards this one, American Lion, Andrew Jackson. It's about Andrew Jackson, and it's by John Meacham. And I'm kind of interested in Andrew Jackson because I'm kind of interested in populism right now, because it seems to be a really strong political force, at least in the U.S. today. And this was, Andrew Jackson was a populist president. So I'm kind of interested in that. So I'm leaning towards this one. And then I've got a category called philosophy spiritual. I kind of group these together, even though they probably don't quite belong together. But I've got In Praise of Forgetting, Historical Memory and Its Ironies by David Rieff. And to me, this is really interesting about how we remember, like, I believe that there used to be people used to remember things differently because they didn't have access to information like we do today. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what this one's all about. In Praise of Forgetting, Historical Memory and Its Ironies. Historical memory also sounds really interesting to me, how things get remembered across history. And then I've got Altered States and Consciousness, Experiences Out of Time by Mark Whitman. So over the last few years, I've been reading a lot about consciousness and different sort of takes on it and what it is and how it operates. And so for this year, I've got this one that I'm going to take a look at. And then I've got The Roots of Christian Mysticism, text from the patristic era with commentary. This is by Olivier Clement. I believe this is kind of a classic in this field. I don't know a lot about it, but we shall see. I'm really interested in early sort of where religions and history of religion in general, across religions, the Christian mystics of the earlier Christianity. I find them really interesting, so I'd like to learn more about that. And I got this one coming up. Then I've got this one called Breakthrough, Meister Eckhart's Creation, Spirituality in New Translation by Matthew Fox. So I've never read anything by Meister Eckhart. And so I hope to learn something from this one. It looks like it's kind of dense, but I'm going to give this one a go in 2024. Then I've got a few others. I've got Confucius and the Analects. I read a book about Confucius several years ago and had always meant to get to more study of the Analects and never have, but this is a collection of essays about them. I've got From Religion to Philosophy by Francis McDormand Cornford. This is about how the pre-Socratic religion of ancient Greece gave birth to philosophy as we know it in the West. And then I've got The Art of Memory by Francis A. Yates. I believe this is how, like in the Renaissance and in more ancient times, there were these methods to remember things that was practiced because, again, as I mentioned there with the other book about memory, how they didn't have access to the information we have today. So they had to rely on their own memories. So I think that will be an interesting read as well. And then I've got Up from Eden, A Transpersonal View of Human Evolution by Ken Wilber. So I've been meaning to read some books by Ken Wilber for a while now. I think the integral framework that Ken Wilber, I guess, founded is interesting. I watched some of their videos on YouTube. The integral community, I think, is really interesting. And so I'm going to read this one, Up from Eden. And then I've got The Birth and Death of Meaning by Ernst Becker. I've been meaning to get to this for several years as well. And then I got The Origins of Totalitarianism by Hannah Arendt, another one I've been meaning to get to for many years. And it's a classic in its field, all about how totalitarianism gives, how that can rise up and sort of take over and consume people. And then I've got The Republic by Plato. I've been listening in 2023. I listened to a podcast, which I loved, about the Republic. And so I've decided, let me try to give the Republic itself a read. If there's time in 2024, I'll get to that. And then just some odds and ends here. I've got We by Yevgeny Zamyatin. This is a work of science fiction. It's a dystopia. It's one of considered the first kind of major dystopia of the 20th century. There were three. We was the first, and then Brave New World, and then 1984, three major dystopias of the 20th century. Then I've got Reflections in a Golden Eye by Carson McCullers, another author I've been meaning to read another one of her works for a while. I read The Heart is a Lonely Hunter a few years ago, loved it. So I've been meaning to get to another work of hers. Then I've got The Third Man by Graham Greene. The Third Man, I picked this one. I love the movie adaptation. But I read Orient Express by Graham Greene in 2023. Really liked the writer, so I'm going to give that a go. And then I got Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. I read a collection of essays by Andre Aciman a couple of years ago. Chatted those here on my channel. Check those out if you're interested. But the Call Me By Your Name, I really liked the movie adaptation, so I want to give the book a read as well. Then I got The Waves by Virginia Woolf, another author I've been meaning to get to more of her work. I read The Lighthouse and Mrs. Dalloway over several years ago, so need to get another Virginia Woolf read if I can. The Waves. And then I got They Shoot Horses, Don't They by Horace McCoy. I like this kind of gritty mid-century fiction from the U.S., and this one's about the dance marathons, I believe, of the 1930s. So that one sounds really good. I got another one coming up called The Postman Always Rings Twice by James M. Cain. I've read a couple of his other works on and chatted them here on my channel. I love the movie adaptation of that, by the way. The original one with is it Lana Turner? Really good. Then I got Antkind by Charles Kaufman. This one sounds really quirky and interesting. It came out a couple of years ago. So if there's time, I'm going to get to Antkind, but I had it on my list as a backup for 2023, but didn't get to it. So I got it as a backup for 2024, as well as The Cider House Rules by John Irving. So I have read John Irving, but I've never chatted any of it here on my channel. So I would like to read The Cider House Rules. And then I got Brazil by Ian McDonald. This is, I read a book by Ian McDonald several years ago, but I love the way he writes. And so this one is about a Brazil of the past, a Brazil of the present, and then a near future sort of dystopian Brazil and how they are all intersecting. And so it sounds really good, so I'm going to have that one as a backup for 2024. And then I've got Infomocracy by Malka Ann Alder. So this is another sort of dystopia around sort of our information society today. So I got this one on backup as well. And then finally, as backups for 2024, I've got the Iliad and Odyssey. I've never read those. So hopefully 2024, I will have time to get to those as well. All right, I think I've spent a lot of time on this, so I hope if you're still with me, this will be more or less, you should expect to see quite a bit of these titles, chats coming up for these in 2024, as well as some other things. Can be some surprises along the way. I do have some other things planned for 2024 as well, with some people going to join, hopefully, me for some discussions about books on the channel. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. So stay tuned for that, and hope everybody has a great reading year ahead of them, and Happy New Year. I'll see you in the new year.